Good afternoon, and we are excited to have another webinar to discuss false claim to citizenship and illegal voting, especially considering the upcoming presidential elections. I'm sure each person with a social media account have been continually plagued by adverts and pop-ups asking if you are registered to vote or do not forget to register. You might have even received an unsolicited mail inquiring if you have registered to vote. My name is Iris Annan, your facilitator as always. Today's webinar, as timely as it is, centers on the repercussions of illegal voting, registering to vote, and false claim to citizenship, and defenses, if any, available. The speaker for today, as always, and we will have it no other way, is the founder and managing attorney of the law office of Edward Neufville, Attorney Edward Neufville. He is a seasoned and respected attorney in the DMV area. He has been practicing for the past 16 years, and he is often called upon to speak and to extend his knowledge on US immigration law. At the end of our discussion, we will take questions from the audience, and so please use the question and answer tab to send your questions across as the discussions are ongoing. Staff members are available in the chat window to answer specific general questions. Lastly, the resources for today's webinar and the others we have held these past few months will be made available in the chat window as well. Attorney Neufville, thank you for sparing us some of your time to discuss this important and timely topic. I'm certain you have not missed these persistent ads on social media, which are inadvertently urging people to vote regardless of eligibility. Thank you for joining us, Attorney.
Thank you very much. And I must say that it's a pleasure to be here once again and also to engage you all. And I look forward to a fruitful talk. I look forward to hearing from you all as we go through these different scenarios to talk about voting and what effects it will have. And as you indicated, yes, you open up your Facebook or your different, social media accounts, and you have these ads or you have these links or emails encouraging you to vote. And these are advertisements. These are geared to get a reaction from you. And I'm sure that individuals out there can be swayed, especially in this election season where there's so much emotions involved and campaignings are going on. And so the purpose of this webinar is to discuss, as a non-citizen, what happens if you register to vote, what happens if you vote, and ties all that into how this may be seen as a false claim to citizenship. So like you said, Iris, it's timely, and this is something that needs to be done. And for those who may have voted or may have registered to vote, this is also an opportunity for you to find out what you need to do and how we can help you. So, ready, Iris, let's go.
Okay, I have my clipboard here. Everything is ready to go. And then, okay, so my first question, which is quite obvious, is what are the requirements to vote in US federal and state elections?
Okay, so yes, so simply in simple terms, you have to be a US citizen.
Correct.
You have to be at least 18. And with those two requirements, you are eligible, to vote. In some states, if you are a felon or if you're in jail, you have to wait until you have served your time or you are out of probation. But in general, if you're a US citizen, if you are 18 years of age, you're eligible to vote. That also goes to say that if you're not a US citizen, you're not eligible to vote, and so you should not.
Exactly, because these ads that pop up on social media doesn't ask the question, are you a US citizen and are you eligible to vote? It just says, have you registered to vote? So please, US citizens above the age of 18 are eligible to vote in presidential and state elections. Simply put.
Okay. Yes.
Now, can you give me some specific scenarios where a person may have inadvertently registered to vote or
Correct.
have voted? Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure the thoughts are, well, if you're not a citizen, well, why are you voting? Well, exactly. But there are different scenarios where one that comes to mind is when you're going to apply for a state driver's license, or if you're renewing a driver's license or transferring to a new state. Um, Most times and oftentimes, it's a chance for the state to register people to vote. You know, the whole idea is that they want more people registered to vote, they want more people to participate in this very important democratic process. And so at the DMV, when you're applying for your driver's license, we have seen so many times that individuals are registered to vote.
Yeah.
And as a result, they get letters sent to their homes, to their names, saying that you need to vote or you need to cast a ballot in a state elections. And it's easy that when you're receiving this official document from the state telling you that they need you to vote, or if you receive a letter from to serve on a jury trial, you're like, oh, well, I'm part of
Right.
the society. And so these are some of the scenarios that one may inadvertently register to vote, or maybe, or or when you register, or when you apply for your driver's license, that you are told that you can register to vote. There are others who may be under the impression that they are already a US citizen just by the operation of law. If you are a minor, you're a green card holder, and your parents naturalized, there's a process that you can obtain automatic citizenship. Now, there's some nuances as to when and how those laws start, but there are individuals who honestly believe that they are US citizens.
Right.
So these are some of the scenarios.
Mhm.
And last but not least, there's also a confusion because you have relatives and you have state officials who may say to you, yes, don't you want to register to vote? I think you're eligible to vote. And I see that happening a lot. And I think you
Correct.
also told me there was a situation where you were asked to register to vote, right?
Correct. Yes, at the MVA. Hmm. I
Yeah.
was.
So, I mean, the positive thing is that, you working in a law firm and knowing the laws were
That's
able
true.
to then, ask the lady, can I really vote since I'm not a citizen?
Hmm.
Before, she caught herself. But if you were just an ordinary, person, and a state official, informs you that you can register to vote, the
You
automatic,
probably say yes.
yes, well, why should I say no? Because this person knows the job. They should be able to tell me or not. So those are kind of the scenarios that come up
Hmm.
and run into the situation for unlawful voting or registering to vote.
And these are very common and regular scenarios. And I mean, it's day-to-day scenarios because people
Correct.
register, renew their driver's license, relatives are US citizens, so, well, you think that you can vote well. That is
Yes.
accurate. I tell you, is there any waiver or exception for illegal voting?
So if you register to vote and you're not a citizen, or if you vote and you're not a citizen,
Mhm.
the law provides on the books one exception, and that is really geared to a minor child, a person who was a lawful permanent resident, resided in the US before they turned 16, and both parents are naturalized or were US citizens. And the law provides a clear provision that if you really thought that you were a US citizen at that time, um, the, you know, the there is a waiver. And so basically, the Department of Homeland Security will not deport you, or they won't deny your application for citizenship or those type of things. That said, if you are in a situation where this doesn't apply to you, where you register to vote or you voted, the doors are not closed on you completely. This is your opportunity to come and speak with me and talk to me, because there are legal defenses, um, or legal defenses that will be able to explain where we can, where we'll have a chance to advocate, for you. There have been several cases
Right.
where the federal judges have been able to look at the facts of the case and decide whether or not, the consequences that would stem from a lawful voting would apply to you. So the doors are not shut. The consequences are severe, but you're not out of luck. And the most important thing is to be able to have someone by your side to guide you through the process.
Right, and this is where you have to consult with an attorney, because how would you know that this exception applies to you without discussion with an attorney? So this is very important. Please speak with an attorney if you believe yourself to fall within this exception. Attorney Neufville, we have discussed that only US citizens above the age of 18 are eligible to vote in presidential elections. How about local or state elections?
Yes.
What are the
So
requirements?
it's that is an interesting twist because in the US you have several local jurisdictions. So you have the federal elections, you have state elections, and then you have local elections. So you have your township or your city. Within the state, the local towns or local cities or jurisdictions have the right to decide who can participate in those local elections. Some jurisdictions, some cities, their laws allow for residents to vote, and residents meaning you don't have to be a US citizen. There may be another city right next door that may say, we will follow what the state and federal rules say, where you have to be a US citizen. So the state rules vary, city rules vary, but the most important thing that if you're not a US citizen and you are in a position where it's not, where you could vote in a local election, speak with an immigration attorney. It's very important that you do that because the ramifications are very severe if it finds out that you voted in an election where you are not supposed to. So the purpose of this is to also stress to you that it's very important that if you're in this scenario, well, first of all, non-citizens do not vote, but if you must and you want to participate in your local elections in your city and allows it, speak with an attorney. The 1 hour of time that it takes, is valuable in dealing with years and years of legal complications as a result of just that one election.
Okay, latching on the word ramification, please, can you touch on the repercussions or consequences for both immigration and federal for voting illegally or registering to vote?
Okay, well, I'll start with federal. There are several statutes, meaning that there's several laws that have been passed by Congress to combat unlawful voting, unlawful registering to vote, and also false claim to citizenship. Because if you register to vote, you are affirming that you are a US citizen. If you vote, you're also affirming that you're a US citizen. So you have several statutes and laws that were passed by Congress for either unlawful voting, for lying on, for lying on a document that says that you are a citizen. Also, there's a deportation statute for anyone who voted in violation of any federal, state, or local constitution, provision, statute, ordinance, or regulation. So they go down to ordinance, regulation, provision. I mean, everything is there. They're going to capture it. And I have it here. They talk about false statement, willful knowing that you're a US citizen, and the punishment terms to fines, imprisonment, or both. But for a non-citizen is the deportation and the consequences that will result. We spoke about waiver, where you can be forgiven. In most circumstances, immigration violations, there's some how you can seek a waiver to waive, and if you're able to prove hardship to your children or your spouse or your parent.
Yeah.
In this scenario, if you are found to have violated the immigration statute, there's no waiver.
There's
That
none.
means that, you know, you will be put in deportation proceedings, and the success of your case will depend on how well your attorney argue any defenses. And that's hard because there's a very thin line, so.
How are a person who is about to adjust status or to naturalize, if they have voted in the past or registered to vote in the past, what are the consequences? Would the application be denied? Would they get an RFE?
Well, yes. If on an application, a green card or citizenship is found that you have voted, the government first will write you and say, this is what we have. This is what we found. Right. How do you respond? They'll give you a chance to respond. But they will lay out, by law, they have to first prove or show that you actually voted, that it was in violation of a federal statute, ordinance, regulation, and that regulation says that you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. And then you have a chance to respond. Now, you may be thinking and say, well, how are they going to find out?
Correct.
I voted in Kansas. I'm living in New York. It was like about 10, 20 years ago. Well, the questions that they ask on the immigration application and forms are not just questions because they want to make the form look long or anything like that. There's a reason behind every question. And as I always tell clients, there's no way that if you don't tell me or I don't know, there's no way to say, well, you should have checked yes. But the government has resources. The government has the resources. They have your fingerprints, they have your background. They will look at voter registration rolls. They will verify that information received is accurate. And how will they know? They'll cross-check. And you do not want to have voted in a US election and then on an application sign it under penalty of perjury, which is another issue, that it's found out that you lie.
Correct.
Because then you have two strikes. One, you voted. Two, you possibly claim that you're a US citizen. And three, you've lied on a federal application under the penalties of perjury. So if you're in this situation and you have voted or you have inadvertently registered to vote, the first thing you need to do is come and speak with me.
Yes.
Then
yes.
We'll decide,
that's accurate.
Is it worth it to pursue any application that you want to pursue? Is it worth it? And part of it is that the options available to you is one, we're going forward. Two, we're not going forward because of Z. Or if you find yourself in a situation where you've already filed and the government has found out, the next step is for me to figure out, well, if you are put into deportation proceeding, are there any options for you? And so the takeaway from this is, by you hiding, by you trying to dodge and forget about it. Yeah, because even if you are in Kansas or you voted in California, the applications asked where you've lived in the last 5 years, where have you worked, and they have your information. They have, documentation that they can cross-check, So if they really wanted to be as detailed, and which now USCIS is being very, very detailed, they will find out, and they can find out. I mean, this is the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, as I see it, is one of the world's largest law firm with immense resources. And they will verify to protect the integrity of the U.S. The U.S. System.
Right. So how about, are there any defenses at all? Any defenses at all for illegal voting?
Well, yes, and I would say yes. In 2012, there was a situation where it came up where there was a lady who came in on a fiancé visa and was in the process of adjusting her status. And she goes to the department to get her driver's license.
Right.
Provides all the documentation that she's not a citizen, and a state official, the DMV official, says, yes, you can register to vote. And of course, when she then started the green card process down the line, it was, found out that she voted. But she said, look, I have disclosed all the information. I told him I was not a US citizen. I've done everything right. And I got the confirmation from a state official. And so her legal defense was that there's this official authorization that authorizes me, to vote. And it worked. The federal court looked at it and said, yes, there is a legal defense as termed this official authorization.
Right.
But the important thing also, before we move on, is that in the very same month, the same federal judges found another incidence of unlawful voting and denied it the case.
Right.
So it's very fact specific. And 3 years later, a similar case came before the very same federal judges. And the reference, this case from 2012, and distinguished or separated the facts from from that case from the 2015 case. So this official authorization is a defense, but the cases are very fact specific. And, these are things that go. But one last.
Okay, I'm trying to hurry us along. Okay.
But the intent, your intent, does not matter. So if you did not intend to vote, or you didn't know or whatnot, it doesn't matter. When you vote, is a strict liability process. So that gray area of intent was shut down in 2015.
Right. So this is more like legally, this is all legal stuff. So it is important for a person who finds themselves to have voted illegally. I mean, if this defense is available to you, please speak to an attorney. We are making our number and address available in the chat window. You can access or call. Let me just give the number out. Our number is 3015-627-995. If you find yourself in this situation, as Attorney Neufville indicated, there is one possible defense for you, and it's an attorney who may be able to determine if it applies to your case. So please, our number is 3015-627-995. Attorney, let's switch from illegal voting and voting to false claim to citizenship.
Perfect. Okay.
Give me some scenarios on false claim to citizenship.
Okay. Well, we have discussed unlawful voting and registering to vote, which if you did it, it's by default also false claim to citizenship. But apart from the voting, you also have a scenario where individuals who are applying to work, you're not a citizen, you don't have a work permit, there's a form that you fill out called an I-9 verification form before you start work, which says I'm either authorized to work, I'm a green card holder, I have work permit, or I'm a US citizen. Some individuals check the box that they're a US citizen. They present their driver's license. They may have a social card that is blank. There used to be a period of time where if you got your social, you just had a number on it. Nowadays, I think there's a writing underneath that says that you have to have a work permit, but that's one scenario where if you fill out the I-9 form and you claim a US citizenship, that's false claim to citizen. If you apply for a student loan and you claim to be a US citizen, if you attempt to obtain a US passport, obviously, and if you are claiming US citizenship to obtain a benefit for which US citizenship is required, that's also a false claim to US citizenship.
Okay, let me go back to my questions here. And is there any defense available to false claim to citizenship?
Well, one claim is, well, I didn't do it. I mean, there are a lot
That
of
won't
other,
fly, will it? No.
there's also, as I said, legal loopholes that you can look. Well, did you really sign the I-9 verification form? When you apply for a student loan, did you actually check the application or not? For example, if you're buying a house, you know, make sure you look at the loan application, because sometimes the loan agent will just assume that, well, you've been here for a while, you're working, you can buy a house, so you must be a U.S. citizen, not thinking that, are you a U.S. citizen? So those are some of the things you can kind of look at and say, well, I didn't really represent, or I didn't really say that, and whatnot. But in generally, if you make a false claim of citizenship, like unlawful voting, there's no waiver, there's no forgiveness for that. There is one possible defense or option, is where it's called voluntary and timely retraction. Basically, what that means is that I made a claim for U.S. citizenship, and before I'm caught, I changed my mind and I voluntarily retracted my statement or whatever I did. And in some way, without going into the legalese, it just means that you need to talk to an attorney. You need to call me so that we can figure out when, what is actually timely retraction, how long can it be? Can you say, well, I want to timely retract 10 years afterwards? I don't know. How voluntary is voluntary? So those are things that, but there's a positive, I mean, there's those options available to you.
Okay. And would you advise someone to disclose on any application whatsoever that they have at some time or at some point claimed false citizenship?
Will always advise any client to always tell the truth.
I figured.
And the truth is, if you unlawfully voted, and the question asked on the citizenship application, have you ever voted in any state, federal, local elections? Didn't say, have you ever illegally voted or lawfully voted, or you voted in just a local, is it federal, state, or local election? The answer is yes. I voted in a local election. I was authorized to vote. Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen, directly or indirectly, in writing or any form? So those are questions that you answer. There's another question: have you ever committed a crime for which you have not yet been arrested for? So at the end of the result, yes, you will have to disclose that. But before you get to that point, you will need to have spoken with a competent immigration attorney, not just any attorney, not just someone who practices, just filing green cards, someone who understands the parameters of this law and its implications. Because within the immigration law context, there are different nuances and facets that, not just because you have filed work permit applications or filed green card applications, that you may be competent. So as an applicant, as you, when you look for an attorney, you want to be able to make sure that the attorney understands what the ramifications are and how they're able to advise you. And secondly, use your common sense. If you're sitting across from an attorney and you feel that they're not asking or getting the information, or you feel that this is not well detailed enough, don't go with that attorney. Don't go with that attorney. Trust your gut. If you go to a doctor and you have to have surgery, and the doctor is just saying, well, we'll just, take you into the room and slice you up. And you say, well, what are the side effects of this? And the doctor says, oh, well, I mean, you have some pain here and there. I wouldn't go with that. I mean, those are things that I know. I want something much more substantive that will advise me, as to whether I'll be out for 3 weeks, will there be complications down? What about other things? Those are things that you want to kind of look at. So in as much, the burden is also on you to kind of dig down into nitty gritty.
So the important take home point here is speak with an attorney. I mean, you
Correct.
can't go wrong if you speak with an attorney, right?
With not just an attorney, because I don't
Right.
want you going
Competent immigration attorney.
immigration attorney who understands this area. You don't want to go
Right.
to a criminal law attorney, a family law attorney. You want to go with what an immigration law attorney competent in this area and one that
Right.
you're comfortable with.
Okay, I'm sorry, I take it back. A competent immigration attorney. I got that right.
All
Okay.
right.
So let me look at one or two questions from our audience, and then so question. I submitted documents. Okay, hold on. So if one presents a document, say a South Carolina driver's license, and they are asked, where are you from? Would that qualify as false claim to citizenship? And they say, yes, I'm from South Carolina.
Well, that'll be that. I mean, I've encountered that situation with clients where a client is returning to the United States or maybe had lived in the United States, have a state driver's license, left the country, coming back, they're stopped. And the question is, where are you from? And the answer is, well, I'm from South Carolina, or I'm from Virginia. And naturally, if you don't have a passport or any documents, you'll be put into the secondary where an officer will then question you a little bit more. If you say, I'm from South Carolina or I'm from Virginia, it could be taking that you're claiming to be a US citizen. Bottom line, that is how it will be treated. Now, once you're in the secondary inspection area, the officer will then take a sworn statement. What is a little bit difficult in that area is that the conversations held with the first officer and then leading to the taking of the sworn statements are not included in the record. Right. So I'm not sure if a person says, I'm fleeing my country, I'm from Georgia, just so that I can get in and claim, that I fear returning home. We don't know whether or not there was a timely retraction, or the person or the officer found out that they were lying, and the person says, "Oh, I'm applying for asylum." That information is mostly lost. So we have to depend on the client's statements against the officer, words, and the general circumstances involved. In those cases, the judges or the USCIS officer will rely on the client's statement of whether or not they believe the client.
Right. Okay. Attorney Neufville, as a lawful permanent resident, if a person volunteers or donates to presidential election, does that count in any way? So what we are discussing?
No, U.S. election laws allows lawful permanent residents to contribute up to the limits, to a presidential campaign. So yes, you can canvass for candidates. You can support them. You can be part of their campaign. You can serve as a campaign manager. I think there was one circumstance where there was a non-citizen who was working on a presidential campaign in the last 4 years or so. So yes, and I think that becomes a little bit confusing for people, because if they can fully participate in the electioneering process and donate money, then the question is, why can't you vote? Most countries prohibit non-citizens from voting, from donating financial campaigns. And so it can be easily confusing where a lawful permanent resident is doing everything else, but not voting.
Allowed to vote.
So, but to answer your question is that, yes, you can participate by donating or giving financial help to the candidate of your choice.
Okay. So to wrap this whole discussion about voting and false claim to citizenship, everything up, we have elections in what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. What will be your final words to non-citizens out there who are not sure whether they can vote, whether they should vote? What will be your last words?
My last words, one, if you're not a US citizen, do not vote. One, that's the first thing.
Correct.
Do not be tempted to vote. Do not feel pressure to vote. Individuals will send you emails to say, register to vote, speak your voice. Two, do not get so emotionally involved in this process that you are unable to think about the ramifications of voting. By going to vote, or by voting, by going to register to vote, because you feel that, I gotta get my voice
out there.
Yes. Three, family members, friends, if you're not a US citizen, and I'm telling you, do not vote. If anybody says, well, you can register to vote, your next question would be like, I'm not a US citizen and I cannot vote. So if you've been here for 50 years, 60, 40 years, you have 5 US citizen children, you've been paying taxes, you've been doing all this stuff, you speak English, of all things, you are an American, that's fine, but you're not a US citizen. Now, if you have registered to vote, or if you have voted in the past, or if you thought you were a US citizen, but now you're not, that is when you call me. You call me at 301-562-7995. You send me an email, and we'll sit here and we'll talk, and I will walk you through the different options and scenarios that you have, and what may happen, what could happen. Here's what options, and we'll figure this out. So my job is to be able to guide you through the legal process, and to take the facts that you have from your life and to apply it to what the law says, and advise you what are the ramifications and what options you have in there. So this is a beautiful process. I'm glad that people want to vote. I want people to vote lawfully. The strength of our society is based on active participation, but it has to be done the right way, and we have to respect the system. And my job is to make sure that when it comes time for you to become a citizen, to help you navigate that process
smoothly.
Falling off the track, come to me. I will also assist you in it. But that is what we're here for, and we're ready to assist you in whatever way we can.
Thank you so much. As I said in the beginning, the resources for this webinar and the several others we've held in the past are available in the chat window. If you want to book a consultation, please call our office at 301-562-7995. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are certain that we'll see you at the next one. Attorney Neufville, thank you so much for sparing time.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.